Good evening, everybody. Can I get a show of hands that you can hear me and see the screen, please? Excellent. Thanks, Nathan. All right, we're going to get going at 8 o'clock Sydney time. So just bear with me for a few minutes and we'll get going. If you're streaming in on YouTube, we'll be getting going at 8 o'clock Sydney time. You're a bit delayed. And if you want to ask questions, you actually need to come in and register for the webinar. So if you want to know how to do that, then if you just go to our acy.com education webinars page, and you can register for tonight's webinar, and then you'll be able to ask me questions. As I'm going through the webinar, I can't see the YouTube chat, so I can't answer any questions if you're watching it live on YouTube, okay? Okay, everybody, thanks very much for attending. Welcome to this evening's ACY Securities live market analysis webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. If you could just read through the risk disclaimer before we move along. If you have any questions as we're going through the webinar, just type them into the Q&A box. The only trade setups that I might be showing you tonight are just for educational purposes only. If you're wanting to trade them yourself, you need to make sure that they are to your plan, your investment strategies. So anything I'm showing you this evening is just for educational purposes only. All right, a little bit about myself. I'm a senior market strategist and trading mentor at ACY Securities. Full-time Forex trader. I've been trading the Forex market now for 15 years and mentoring clients for more than 10. If you want to contact me regarding the webinars, you can get me at duncan.cooper@acy.com. If you want to follow me, I'm on the website at acy.com. Go to the Market News tab, you'll find my analysis there. You'll also find my analysis at the ACY Securities Australia YouTube channel. And you can connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn. Just give you a second to write those down if you need to write anything down. So tonight I'm going to go through a live market analysis webinar. I'm going to look at the pairs that I look at. I'm going to be using the tools and tricks that I've been teaching you in the beginner webinar series. That's going to restart on Tuesday, the 2nd of November. So that's a week today, 8 o'clock Sydney time. And the topics that we're going to be covering, there's a few more added in. So if you've attended before or you've partly attended before, it's always good to start at the beginning. Adding in technical analysis basics, which is basic charting and candlestick patterns. We're going to go through another new webinar called Trade Orders and Execution, which is getting into the platform and showing you what orders types you can use and how you execute them. So those are two new ones. And then we're going to cover all these topics over 15 webinars. And there's a few more here. And the one at the end is also a new one that we haven't covered yet called Risk and Trade Management. So there's 12 that we've done before and there's 3 more added in. So starting on the 2nd of November, Tuesday, 8 o'clock Sydney time, we'll be going through technical analysis basics. That's the basics of charting and understanding candlestick patterns and how we can identify them on charts. All right, for tonight we're going to go through live market analysis. I'm going to bring up my charts. Looking at the list of people on tonight, I think you've already had the opportunity to see my charts and download and install. So I don't think I need to cover that this evening. So let's just get into the charts now. I've got my charts set up as I had them last week, so we can just roll forward from one webinar to the next. So that's what I'm going to do through the course of this week. I'm doing live market analysis webinars tonight, Wednesday night and Thursday night. And I'm just going to keep my charts up to date and show you how the market's unfolding according to how I'm drawing trend and support and resistance. And if I can identify a trade setup, I'll look at doing that. Now, I'm just going to cover the Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar. Last week, I was looking at this Aussie dollar, potentially failing at the 7,500 area. I had these levels drawn in last week. This is last month's high at 74.78. This 75.03 level, I'm getting that back in time on the monthly chart from an area of old support here. All right, so that's at 75.03. Now the weekly trend at the moment is up, but it's just retracing against the overall monthly downtrend. This fib range I've got drawn in is the range of the last move down, and we're just rallying at the moment against the monthly downtrend. And we're going to see that the day chart trend is up. Sorry about the motorbike, that's outside. And yes, we're in an uptrend on the day chart, but we've been hovering now for 1, 2, 3, 4, almost a week stuck in this area. And last week I was saying this monthly level at 75.03 could be strong resistance for the market. The next level above at 75.32 is this weekly low point here, old support becoming resistance. We tested that last week, heavily rejected, came down, and we're obviously moving back up. We put another higher bottom in. So the question is, in the area that price is at, is it a rally now before moving down, or is it just a continuation and a push up and through still? So let's just move down the time frames. For our chart, we'd have to say this is in an uptrend at the moment. But I'm not convinced that the market isn't starting to fail here. And we may be wanting to look to the downside. Price has been above that 75 level through here, fell below, tried to get above here, fell below, held here late Friday or early into Monday. And then we popped above today, but we're getting back below it again. So what I saw on the 15-minute chart, just before I get there, I'm just going to draw a fib across that range. And then down to the 15, what I saw on the 15-minute chart was the 62% level. So I might move back to the 1-hour chart just for the moment. That moved down. We've been traveling back up. We've tested the 62 here, tried to get above, and we've moved back below during the Asian session. And what I saw was, as it started to move back below that level, there was a trend line break up here. And it broke below the 62, went across down, and in between Frankfurt and London, came back up for a retest of the 62, and then has traded down. So up there, I clicked in just to show you where I thought resistance was. Had a failure on trend line break. Trades moved down 20 pips at the moment, had a bounce. Trades at break even, and I'm just waiting to see, is it going to move down the range? So we can't go back in time and take that trade, obviously, but what I'm showing you here is that move down. This is the 1-hour chart back to. This rally that we've been having back up, it's failing at 62 in my mind. And then I was just waiting for weakness to appear on the 15-minute chart, and that's occurred, and it gave an opportunity to sell. Let's move down, set a bounce. Once again, you can see at 75.03, This is my monthly resistance level that I've got drawn in. We're getting some weakness in the candles. So I'm anticipating that price is going to move down from where it is through the course of the day, through the course of the week maybe. So back to the 1 hour chart. Price moving down to test support here at 74.53, or moving further down into the 127 extension at 74.28. All right, so having an anticipation that you can move down over the course of the next day or two. Could get down there obviously in 1 day, but might take 2 days. So that's what I'm anticipating. We can have a look at that later on tomorrow in tomorrow's webinar. Now, that's a 15-minute look. Same sort of story in the New Zealand dollar. Let me take it to the day chart. This is how my chart's drawn up last week. And the key area that I was discussing was actually from the monthly chart first of all. I drew a fib from the lower top to the lower bottom, because this is in a downtrend and price action just rallying here. Weekly chart. Got some levels drawn in. This lower level at the moment probably isn't valid, so I'll just take that off just for the short term. But I've got a line drawn on this weekly top because 1, it's resistance, and 2, it's last month's high. So price has been trying to move above it, testing it, falling back below it, back above it, and it's just at it today. So that's the move down for the monthly range. We've been rallying back up. We've tested the 79% retracement. We're trying to hold now at last month's high. Is it getting ready to move down? Day chart trend, we've had a very good run up. Still in an uptrend at the moment, but is it in the area where it's putting in its final rally up based on the monthly chart and getting ready to move down? Or obviously it can still move further up. So you have to make your decision. Do you think the monthly trend is going to finish and we're going to take out this top up here and change the overall trend? Or are we just rallying up to put in the lower top on the monthly chart? So this could be where the lower top is forming on the monthly chart. Try to move above last month's high for a while, 1 or 2 candles, but then negative candle at 79% level back below the monthly high. We rejected the monthly high on Friday. Monday again traded slightly above, back below. Today traded above, slightly back below. So it's clear resistance at 71.70. For our chart, a little bit consolidatory here at the moment. It's just holding maybe a downtrend, lower top, lower bottom, almost a double top here. And just put in a negative 4-hour candle, and another one's just starting. MACD's remaining crossed down. 1 hour chart has just turned negative to a lower bottom. MACD's crossing down. And what I saw earlier was, well, continual failure. This is yesterday, holding above, back below that monthly resistance. Resistance, 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 rejection at resistance. Just got above for a while. Bit of support there, back below. Came back above and then fell back below. So I was watching that level and I thought, well, it just doesn't look like it wants to hold there. We've had trend line break, move down. It's come back up for another retest and hold at that level. How many times does that level want to hold as resistance? So to me, that just looks like a clear level of resistance, and the market may well trade down from that level. And we could be, I've already put in the top on the monthly chart for the next longer term move down. So I initiated a sell there at 170, 20 pips above stop. Now, just to put things in perspective for you, back to the weekly chart here. This is the range of the monthly move down that we've had. And we're having a rally back up. I'm anticipating that from this area, we could move down to support at 68.04 or further down 127 extension at 66.66. Or, you know, the trend could really unfold and we could, you know, really start to move down. All right, so that's how I'm looking at it. Obviously, I'm discussing here that we're at resistance, it's holding, so it's a good level just to trade against. You have a very small risk of 20 pips. And, you know, down in support, there's a good, I'm measuring this right, at least 350 pips down there with a 20 pip risk. So, you know, this is how you can get a very low risk trade started. And if it does start to move down the range, a good profit target. You know, if you're risking 20 pips and there's 350 to go down there, do the maths. The risk reward there is 1 to 17, if my maths is right. All right, so not doing much at the moment, but it's clearly holding against 71.70. All right, the dollar yen. I did some analysis of this pair today. It's on the website. We discussed this last week, and if we go to the monthly chart at the moment, it is at clear resistance up here. I've got my lines drawn in. I'll go to the weekly so I can tell you what levels I've put in, but there's two monthly tops here, and there's also a weekly top that I've drawn in. So I'll tell you what the monthly tops are when I get down to the next time frame. But we've clearly moved up to a top of resistance. Maybe long term we could move, oops, get my line. Maybe long term we could move all the way back down to the lower end of that major range that the market's been trading in. Who knows? Take a long time to get down there, but we're at major resistance and it's a great area to think about. Could I take a trade up there to trade back down if that unfolds? So on to the weekly chart. And these two levels at the top, 114.72, 114.54, those are the monthly levels of resistance that we traded into. We pulled up about 2 or 3 pips short of the top line. We've got a weekly area of resistance here that we false broke at 114.20. And today we've been trying to move back up to that level, kind of fading at the figure at the moment at 114. So we had a very negative candle last week. So I had those levels drawn in last week ahead of the week's trading finishing. And you can see that the levels I drew in acted as clear resistance. Now the trend is up. High tops and bottoms on the weekly. It's going to be a while before the weekly trend can change. But is it changing up here on the lower time frames? The day chart hasn't quite changed its trend, but if it breaks below this line of support where my mouse is at 113.40, then that's going to certainly confirm that you've got a downtrend on the daily. MACD's crossed down. So I'm just anticipating this may come back up for another test of resistance. If it can hold, fail, that's the area where you should start to look to initiate a sell. So on the 4 hour, I'm just having a fib in across that range of last week's trading. And the 62% level lines up with the weekly resistance. And the 79% level is a little bit short of 114.54, but not too far away. So anywhere up into the 62 to 79% area and then seeing price fail, you could well see a good move down from that area. Now last week when we were testing the top up here, I think it would have been the 20th. What day was that? Last Wednesday. I actually showed you how you could initiate a trade up there on the 15-minute chart. I'm still in it. Trades at break even, and price might come up to retest that level. I don't know. I just need to adjust this line here because I dragged it off before when I was putting my trend line, my resistance line in. So I've got my trade at break even up there. Price is just rolling at the moment. And as we move down to the 15-minute chart, what you'll see here is that we got to the 50% fib at the moment, and we're just holding at the figure level. Now, it's not in an area where I'd like to initiate another trade on it. I'd like to initiate a little bit higher up at the 62 level maybe, or the 79% level, but market doesn't always give me what I'm looking for, and it is holding here at the figure. It is in the red zone. You just have to decide what levels you like to trade at. and trade up or down from them. So at the moment, it's not quite in an area that I like. I'd much prefer to see it back to the 4 hour, or I might go to the 1 hour there. We've got a closer look. Or I can just drag my line back up closer to my entry there. There we go. So I'd much prefer the 62 level here. That's at 114.20, and I've got weekly resistance up there. So I'm just going to highlight that in, and we can see whether that level gets hit over the next couple of trading days. Of course, if you are more ambitious, you may want to be getting short at the figure there today. That's your choice. All right, I'm going to go left now. Start on the Aussie Yen. I'm just going to go through the pairs as we were looking at them last week, see what's been changing or not. Now, the Aussie Yen's still in an uptrend here. It's put in a higher bottom. We have a higher top formed above. We've just poked through, this is the monthly chart. We just poked through monthly resistance last week. Monthly trend is up. I've got a couple of levels of resistance, monthly resistance, weekly resistance at 85.18. And the trend here on the weekly is up. Trend on the monthly is up. But look at last week's candle. Doji, rejection candle at major resistance. Obviously, we're trading back into the area at the moment. But to me, it's not in an area where I'm going to be buying, because we're at resistance. And last week's trading clearly told me I'm at resistance. Try to trade through, and we traded back below. It closed on the weekly chart below the area of resistance I've got marked in. The daily, yes, still on an uptrend. MACD is not crossed down yet, putting in a higher bottom. Is this the last higher bottom for the market to fail in the resistance area to trade down? So is it going to trade down and break this swing point low? If it breaks the swing point low, that's confirming really to you that the day chart trend is now down and resistance is dominating against the trend and changing the trend to down. So I wouldn't be buying here. You'd have to see this move clearly above to be a buyer. If you wanted to be a buyer, you should be buying back down here somewhere. All right. Now it's the question of, is it going to move through, or should we be getting our selling hat on and looking for an opportunity to sell? So for me, we're at resistance. That's where trends finish. So I'm just looking, same as the dollar yen. I'm just looking to see how price rallies against my fib tool. I can see at the moment it's holding at 62. I can see at the top, when you put in this top, we had some negative divergence. So maybe that's just shouting out to you that's the last top that's been put in before we move down longer term. Time will tell. All right, so we're at a good level, 62% level. 1 hour chart, not quite yet turned down. But if you start to see this 1 hour chart turning down, lower tops and bottoms, in all probability, it's on its way back down to test last week's low. So is the 15-minute chart telling us that maybe it's topping out the 62? Already had trend line break, MACD cross, failing in the red zone, the sell zone of the pivots. So up here at the 62 level, it overlaps with the R2. That's one of my confluence levels of resistance. You could have easily highlighted that at the start of the day and thought that would be a great level of resistance where the market could fail today if you're expecting the trend to turn down from the area of resistance on the higher time frame. And quite clearly, we've had a trend line break. Did come up for a retest on the London Open. And then it's just a little bit, the candle's a bit negative. Trend's negative here at the moment on the 15. Cross down. So it's the question now that if you did initiate a trade up here, is it going to go your way or not? Time will tell. But it looks like a solid setup for a sell up there at the top. You can't go back in time though. But if it did come back up for another sniff at 62 level with that pivot, you could look for another trend line break. Just don't know whether it will give you a second opportunity. All right, moving along. And we covered the Aussie already. Not much changed. It's still deciding, does it want to move back below 75? 75.03, my monthly resistance is holding. An outside candle. Euro yen. Had these levels drawn in last week. said it would probably hold as resistance maybe. It's all coming from the monthly chart. There's an old monthly top here, another monthly top there. So we moved into an area of monthly resistance. Yes, the monthly trend is up, but we're at resistance. Is that going to hold? Weekly trend still up, but a very negative weekly candle last week. And I was suggesting last week this might pull back to support. Weekly support at 130.73. Daily chart. Nice spinning top. 3 candles there trading into and out of that area. So we're going to put in a bottom here to move up and retest. Is the retest going to fail? And is the trend going to change on the day chart to down for the moment to trade back down to weekly support? Time will tell. This MACD is looking like it's really long in the tooth and it wants to cross down. Again, all these yen pairs that I'm looking at, I'm just looking to see if the market can rally and fail at a good 62 or 79% level on the fib tool. I like that 133.12. It lines up with the 79% fib. So I'm just going to monitor that area. Let's mark it in. We'll see how it goes along the course of the week. Could get there today, could get there tomorrow, could get there on Thursday. So I'd like it to come back up for a final stab. MACD at the bottom there looks like it may want to cross up. So it may mean that this is going to move up the range in the short term. Like I was showing you on the Aussie Yen. Negative divergence at the top. So is that the final top? And yes, any price action moving up is just a rally. So monitor that. I'm not interested in engaging where it is at the moment. I want to see it come up, back up to the heights of resistance. If it fails up there, then I'd look to engage maybe. All right, just looking at the 50-minute price action. Not seeing anything I want to, nothing shouts out at me at the moment. That really shouts out at me up here, but that might be 1 or 2 days away at that level. So sometimes I'm finding my levels, and I know they're not going to get hit today, but I'm just watching and waiting. Euro dollar. This has been very good, this pair. I'm just going to take you to the weekly chart. We discussed this level here last week. Weekly trend is down. If you go to the monthly chart, the monthly trend is down too. But the weekly trend is down here. We've just been having 1 or 2 weeks up, and we're moving back up to this old low here, 116.64. Day chart, you can see we've been in an uptrend on the day chart and probably just about holding to that uptrend, but it keeps testing and failing at that resistance level. That's why I say to you that resistance trumps trend. Even though you're seeing a day chart uptrend still, higher bottom, higher top area, it's at resistance, and there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trading days where we've either been slightly short, well, 2 days slightly short of resistance, 3 days we've touched the level of resistance, but we're not trading above and through it. So resistance is holding the trend. So we could well be fading there for a move down. 4-hour chart. I've discussed trends with you, consolidation with you, and saying that whilst you might see trends, and we know the weekly chart trend is down, day chart trend is up. On the 4-hour chart, it's more consolidatory, or has been. It's been holding on this area of support, fading at the weekly level of resistance. There was 1, 2, 3 times you could have traded trend line breaks up there at that level. Last week and into this week, and you could have traded down, back down to support. In actual fact, you could have probably traded back up from support as well. Now it is breaking down. We've broken below level support, and in the short term, it may be coming back up to test support. My level of support line, or broken level of support line, is at 116.24 from this area here. So if I just go back in time a bit, through last week, at this area of weekly resistance, simple trend line break would have got you in the trade. That was trade 1 on, I think it was Tuesday. Wednesday into Thursday, came back up to the level. Simple trend line break. Down she came again. Into Friday here, we're on support. I think Nathan, he's on tonight. I think he traded up from support. I was talking to him the other day. And then into Monday, we came up once more to that level. I've got a trade. I just initiated a trade yesterday up here, break even, and just going to see how it runs. Now, you can see it held at resistance, came back up and double top. Now, in this case, doesn't give you a great trend line break opportunity. And if that's your technique to get in, maybe you miss out. If I'm drawing a trend line in, you could have maybe gotten in on this candle here. You would have needed to risk, well, only about 15 pips. So yes, there was an entry there. But I just saw it double topping and holding here, thinking, how many times does it want to hold there and give you an opportunity to sell a strong resistance? So you only needed to click in, give it a 10 or 15 pip, 20 pip stop, and really didn't trade much more than a few pips against you, holding at resistance. And obviously now it's traded down. So we can't go back in time and trade any of those, but that level's still valid if we come up for a retest. At the moment though, we've got my old level of support at 116.24. It's just slightly above the central pivot. So assuming now we've broken below support, that's becoming a resistance, then, central pivot here. If it just kind of pokes through there, hits resistance and bobs back below the central pivot, tries to go above central pivot, hits resistance, trades back down, and then you see a trend line break, you know that old support's acting as resistance. In a good strong trend, price never gets much above central pivot. So that's an area to watch for failure today. We take to the pound dollar. And so it's coming up to 13800 level. If you're in my webinars last week, I was discussing the 13800 level. So let's just go do a top down. And we'll just focus on the weekly trend here at the moment. I could go to the monthly, but it's not really telling me any more information that I really need to find from the week. The weekly trend here is down to a lower bottom, and we're just rallying up to the 79% level. And the high to low here is actually the range of last month's candle. So we're just moving back up inside the range of last month's candle. And we rallied up to last week, the 79% level, and rejected it. You see a negative candle there. At the moment, getting the 79% levels at 138.05. We're just coming up close to that level at the moment. Now I'm drawing a line in at 138 because on the day chart, you'll see that it's been countless times support and resistance, support, 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 bit of resistance there for a while, more support, more support, more support. It's been a clear area of support or resistance through the last 6 months or so. So market's been trying to get above it a little bit by about 40 pips, back below it. It's putting in another high bottom of the day. So the weekly trend is down, day trend is up. Weekly trend will always trump the daily because that's a higher time frame dominant trend over the daily. So the question is it going to hold here? It's been deliberating now for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. To 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart's been breaking down, lower tops and bottoms, just starting to put a higher bottom, higher top. Don't get too fooled by that because the question is, what does it do at 138 or the 79% level at 138.05 as well? If this is the final top here and we're starting to move down the range over time, and it's just having a bit of a rally move down of the bigger range, just rolling back up here at the moment. Then we're just trading into the 62 level. Might trade up to the 79 level at 138.05 up here. Okay, so we're coming into a good area where if we start to see weakness, could be a good area to trade down in line with the weekly trend. Has that weekly rally finished on the weekly chart? Is it putting in its final lower top area now again for another move down? So if we move back to the weekly again, this, if you could initiate a trade where we're at right now, this could move back down to 134.10 or below. It's just rallying up. So it's moved down. Rally, is it going to put the next leg down? So this is where, if you think that's going to happen, this is where you need to be getting your seller's hat on, thinking about how can I get in for that move down. All right, so maybe it comes up to 138 or 138.05, getting into the red zone and pivots as well. That area up there, I'm just going to draw it in. We're not there yet, and it's not giving us a trend line break or anything to do, but that area is an area to watch today, tomorrow, for failure to the downside, okay? Now, I might not get there, maybe failing already, but that's the critical area where you're going to find potentially lots of sellers who want to move it down. And if you want to be aggressive, you could just be thinking, well, if it gets to 138, I'm going to click in, because I think this is the area where price is going to pull up. And if you just put your stop 20 pips above, you're only risking 20 pips on the trade. If it goes your way, great, you get the risk out. If it goes your way, great as well, because in that area, so you're selling at 138 maybe, trading down to 134.10, that's 390 pips away. So that's a great risk reward trade. All right, so all I'm saying there is that to me, it's in a good area of resistance, and the position of the market is telling me that maybe the weekly lower top might be forming or formed, and we may be moving back down for the long term. All right, just want to check the New Zealand dollar. New Zealand yen, I'm just watching this at the moment. Monthly trend is up, the weekly trend is up. Yes, if we start to see a major failure on the dollar yen, then this pair may start to withdraw itself back down. But at the moment, we're seeing a very dominant trend. And it really hasn't, back to the monthly, it really hasn't yet got to what I would like to see, a very clear level of resistance. So if it hasn't got to a level of resistance that I can clearly make an educated guess that I think, okay, it could really fail there, then all I can say at the moment is we've got an uptrend on the monthly, it's uptrending on the weekly, and it's uptrending on the daily. Now, it could start to put in new resistance up here at the top. Price could put in a lower top, break below this bottom. If that happens, it's going to be very much like the Aussie yen, the euro yen, the dollar yen, and then I might start to look at this as being more negative. But at the moment, I'm still seeing any negativity. Really, this is in an uptrend, and you might be pushing yourself to trade down because it's not really failed at any level yet. So usually when we get these big moves and then it holds and starts to deliberate, that's the end of the move. But out of all the yen pairs, this is the strongest one at the moment. It's not failing at a critical level, so I'm just watching, see what it's doing. Nothing to do. This will move down the range though if the New Zealand dollar, as I've been discussing, the 71.70 level. This holds and we start to get movement down on the New Zealand dollar. That's going to make the New Zealand yen drag its feet. All right, just going to see what the dollar yen's doing. It is failing up there at the figure. Maybe it doesn't want to go any higher than that level. We always have to make our choice. I like to take my choices at the highest probability levels that have lots of things going at them. So I'd much prefer to see this failing higher up the range before I initiated a new opportunity to sell. But it is failing at the figure there. For a trend line break, likely cross. All right, I'm going to skip back. Now, this is the pair that you wanted me to go through that you are following yourself and you'd like me to have a run through on it. Just type it in. Just going to have a squeeze at the pound yen. And it's not a pair I'm trading at the moment. So having a bounce on, go to the monthly area. We're at an area of monthly resistance here that we've moved through at the moment. It's 2 monthly tops. And at the moment, we're just holding on and we're holding on top of the lower of the two tops, which is this top here at 156.07. And we've moved above the highest top, and we are above at the moment. So this is holding above resistance at the moment on the pound yen. Did put in a very negative candle last week. So is it like the other yen pairs? Is it just rallying within the range of last week before wanting to move down? Or is it wanting to move further up? We'll have to wait and see. At the moment, I'd like this to move well away from the top of that range area before I was thinking to be a buyer, because so this very long move. And after that, when it's toying with a major area of resistance, I'm always concerned it's going to move back below. So it's not in a position where I'd like to initiate a buy. I might want to initiate a sell if it breaks this low point, but it's not doing that at the moment. So if it breaks above the high here, puts in a fresh high, then really any thought of maybe this showing any weakness and pulling back within the major range is probably off the table. So if it breaks above the high there, really you're just looking for an opportunity to buy. At the moment, for me, it's just questionable in terms of, has it really committed itself to move above these two levels, or has it been showing on the other yen pairs? Has it moved back down? Is it rallying to move this way? So I just like it to move above the top. If it moves above the top, then there's no ambiguity there for me in my mind. It's in a clear trend. Because I'm seeing all the other yen pairs a little bit weaker, if they go weak, then this will go weak with it as well. So you might have a different viewpoint. If we look at the 15-minute chart, you can see it's been trending up all day into the red zone. Didn't spend much time below the central pivot today, so clearly in a trend, moving up. Now, if your bias is to be to the upside, then if it pulls back to that monthly resistance high and holds as support, again, that's positive for the pair. So if that happens today, you see it hold here, and it can't get to the central pivot, that's just strong. If it can't get to the central pivot and it holds on top of monthly old resistance becoming support, then that's just showing you strength, that all the buyers are wanting to hold it above monthly resistance. All right, so what happens at this area if it pulls back? That's your question. If you're a bull on the pound yen, pulling back to the area, you should be expecting that to hold. If it holds, then maybe you can initiate a trade up. Now, yesterday, quite clearly, the sellers were in control of that level. You can see it here. Today, the buyers are. So can the buyers remain in control longer term? That is the question. So they have to hold really now above 156.59. At or above, they need to be in command. If they can't, so if price just below that level, then maybe your bias has to turn to the other side. All right, we'll review that tomorrow. Now, I just want to go to the S&P 500. And this is just going to new highs. I know some analysts were saying that when we're moving down through this way, that it was disaster time and the market's going to start collapsing. But quite clearly, that was short-lived because we moved up to a fresh high. So if we go to the monthly chart, all we've really had is 2 months trading down. Well, 1 month down last month. This month, early in the month, went to another low, but then we traded up. It's a big outside reversal candle. All I'm seeing at the moment is now price action just wants to go north at the moment. This area here looks very similar to this area here. Short term, I bet the time period is very similar. In fact, as an exercise, let's just go and have a look at that area. I can just go back to where it was. Sorry. Just going to put a line in there so I can find it clearly. What I'm doing here is I'm going to measure the pullback in terms of price and time. And then I'm going to see how different it was to the current pullback. All right, so what we can see is that the current pullback was shorter in price, but slightly longer in time. All right, not majorly too much longer, maybe, I don't know, maybe a week longer pullback than the last time, but shorter in price. So if it's pulled back shorter in price, that just means the buyers are coming in sooner. Price is correcting for maybe a month, a little bit over, but the length of the correction in terms of price action has been shorter this time than last time. So that means the buyers have come in again and thought it's time to come back in, and they come back in with a lesser pullback in price than last time. So they were keener to come in and buy at a higher price than they were last time. All right, so at the moment then, I'm not really seeing any reason why, you know, we should be getting too excited about stock market collapse, other than, you know, if over the next couple of days we move back below 45.50, start a hold below 45.50, maybe we might be putting in some kind of double top. But if the market starts to hold above 45.50, we get a candle down, and that becomes support for the market. Because obviously Friday we held, Monday we pushed through. Is that just Monday morning happiness? And then today we fall back below. But obviously today we're trading up at the moment. The stock market, though, isn't open in its real sense until, what is it, 10 o'clock our time tonight, or 11 o'clock your time tonight, depending where you are, Sydney or Queensland. So if this remains above, then it's probably going to continue going up. So this gives you a good viewpoint at the moment about the stock market, and it's always good to follow the dollar index. At the moment, the pullback that we're having, looking at the weekly chart, it's just pulling back to some old support. Is this getting ready to move up and over this area of resistance? If that's the case, so if we move through here, we're going to see the pairs to the US dollar weakening once more. If, though, it moves down, we're going to see pairs to the US dollar rising. And if that moves down, that's going to help that dollar yen move down from resistance as well. So it's just making its mind up there. So is support going to hold for a move up and through, or are we going to have a deeper retracement? So keep your eye on that. Obviously, a deeper retracement would mean that pairs to the US dollar are going to move up. Or if we move up on this index, then the pairs to the US dollar are going to move down. All right, everybody, I'm just going to give you 5 minutes for a question. If you've got a pair you'd like me to go through, then throw it at me. Just give you 5 minutes. If nothing's coming in, we'll call it an evening. I'll keep my charts as they are. We can have a further review tomorrow about what has been going on from what I've been discussing today. I'm just going to click through and see what's happening. Aussie dollar still holding at this 75 area. It's looking a bit like 75 might be, well, we've been above 75, but the 75 area looks like it's a heavy area for the Aussie at the moment. Euro dollar can't make it to the central pivot at the moment. Pound dollar may just have some legs to get up to the 138 level. So what I'm suggesting, and I'm just suggesting this for educational purposes so you can see how it works, You yourself need to make your own personal decision as to when you trade. But for me, 138's been a very dominant level of support and resistance over the last 6 months. We've got the 79% level of that range coming up as well. So this is that range here. So I'm just going to set up, I'm going to take that line off. There's my 138 figure level. If you want to practice just getting your demo account, I just think this area up here is great. We should maybe see some resistance up here. And for me, if I was trying to trade this down to long-term support, then to me, this is a great area. So I'm just going to set up the opportunity to sell there. Now my charting package I've got on screen is just a demo account because I don't use my live account when I'm doing the webinars. So this, as I say, is just for education, but good strong level of resistance there. Just highlighting to you at 138. You can set a limit order there if you want to get in on first contact. I could use a 30 pip stop on the trade or a 20 pip stop, but it's going to give the trade a little bit of room. And then take profit, or I'd like to be able to trade all the way down the range so I could put that in at a later time. But at the moment, I can set up a low risk trade of 30 pips. What I anticipate to be resistance if it gets there. Now it is holding at the 62 level here at 137.96. So I might be a bit ambitious at 138, but I'm just going to put that in. And I'll see whether the price just gets up there for a sniff. And we can have a look at that tomorrow. This is a good example of identifying resistance areas where you could get a very clear failure at. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work, but what often happens at these areas where you get a number of resistance tools, price will come up and hit it and pull back from it initially. Then you can get the risk out. And if price wants to move off and through in the next hour, well, you're at a break even. And then you can reassess things. So I just keep that on screen. It might get there before 8 o'clock my time. So anyone, any questions? Oh, Nathan, you want me to look at the euro pound? Sorry, mate. All right. I've been looking at the euro pound because it hasn't really been going anywhere, but the monthly is breaking back below this area of support. You know, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, best part of 7 to 8 months, it hasn't been doing much. That's why I've been staying away from it. Can't really say I like the price action. It's very rangy, but it is monthly trend down now, weekly trend down. So, I mean, if I was going to trade this pair myself, that's the level of broken support there in the weekly, 84.50. And it's kind of becoming resistance. We've moved above, back below, moved above Friday, back below Monday. 4-hour trend. I don't like the fact it's sitting all on this support here. Yes, determined that, you know, I'm just going to average those lows in. We determine the monthly and weekly trends that are down. Day chart is down, but I don't like all this consolidation. For that to move down, you know, you need to have a clear break of that consolidation bottom. You know, there's a higher chance that that would move up in all likelihood. Still on the 1-hour chart, holding to a downtrend, but look at these wiki candles on the 1-hour chart. It's moving below, coming back up. All these candle bodies are sitting above my line of support that I put in. I use the last level just there. In fact, what I'm going to do, let's use this one here because that false broke, that got short. So that level there, 84.21, is really the key level that you need to have your mind set on. And at the moment, she's right at that level. I didn't put 84.21. All right, that's the right level. So we're sitting right on top of it. So the question is it support? Well, it's definitely support. It's going against the high time frame trends, but we're in consolidation as we move into the 4-hour, 1-hour chart. So that being said, if you like to trade this pair, 15-minute, look for a reason to buy. Not quite seeing a reason yet, not seeing any trend line breaks. But if you wanted to be a seller, you should have been selling obviously up here somewhere. At the moment, it's looking like it may well pop up the range. We can revisit that tomorrow. But at the moment, I would say it's on support. So you wouldn't want to trade into support. Lou for me. You want the pound franc? All right, let's pull that one up. All right, monthly trend is higher tops and bottoms. Maybe he's putting in another bottom here. It's a bit range bound there though. Look at the weekly trend here. Choppy, choppy, choppy. Weekly trend is just up, higher top, higher bottom. Maybe it's getting ready to move upwards. So back to the monthly, maybe, this is going to move up to retest this high. The monthly trend here is up. The weekly though, it's been very choppy. It's just barely put in a higher top, higher bottom. So, maybe it's coming up to test that monthly top over the length of time. Let's have a look at the daily. Daily's putting a lower bottom here or double bottom. So that's a little bit against what we're seeing on the weekly. But this could be just more support for this to move back up. False break of that level, moving back up. But if I'm looking at high tops and bottoms, lower tops and bottoms, that is a slightly lower bottom. So that just makes it mixed for me. If I was trading this pair, I don't really like all this sideways action. It hasn't been going anywhere for early May. This consolidation started. Now the thing, see this consolidation, once you break above or break out of consolidation, you get a nice trend. So what I would say is this is consolidating. When it breaks out of consolidation, you're going to get a good trend. It isn't in a good trend at the moment now. So this is a pair I want to put on my watch list. Well, I could say it's consolidating. I'll be waiting for it to break out of the consolidation, because the weekly is up here, the daily is down, the 4-hour is up. With that day chart being down here to a lower bottom, this could be a rally to move down. And just eyeballing it before I put the fib in, this is probably retraced 62 to 79. Now this could be the lower top in the daily forming to move that way. It's too many mixed trends there for me and too much consolidation for me to really get a good grasp of what's going on. I don't think it's in a strong trend. I think that there are better pairs to trade. Okay. Moving down the 15-minute. I've got the 62% level. We've got the figure. Some negative candles happening in the red zone and pivots. From a pure, is it an area where you could execute to the short side? Yes, because you're in the red zone, you're failing at the figure. You're at the 62% rally point of the daily retracement. So it is in an area where you could think about, yes, I'm on top of a rally on the daily chart to trade down, most definitely. So I don't know how you're trading yourself, but if this was the only pair I could trade in my life, then I would probably say in the area that we're at, we may well be seeing price move down, just because we're failing at the figure, we're failing at the 62 area of the day chart rally. But on the high time frames, a weekly chart there, it's very, very choppy. All right. Okay, hopefully that helps you with the trend. All right, just before we conclude, I just want to click through, see what's going on to what we've been discussing. Aussie's still putting in a bit of negativity there. Euro's coming up maybe to touch that pivot point, central pivot point area. Pound dollar doesn't look like it's getting up to my figure level. Came up for another sniff of the 62. So sometimes, I can pick a level and it doesn't get me in. And then if it moves down lots of pips, that'll be frustrating, but that's the way trading is. Could get up there later in the day. I might come back to it later and I might just, comes back up to the 62. That sets the 137.96. It's only 4 pips away from the figure. I don't have to be too exact if it's the area that I really want to initiate a trade at. So I'll just watch that for you guys and we can have another look at that tomorrow. Dollar yen. Still chopping around that figure. That's why, when I'm doing my higher time frame analysis, back to my 4 hour, this range that I've drawn across, I'll just move it down to 1 hour so we can see it a bit clearer. When price is moving up within the Fibonacci retracement tool, I don't like to be trading at the 50% level. I like to be trading at the 62 area or the 79 area. So to me, it's in no man's land. It's in an area that for me, I just think it's going to move up higher into the 62 to 79. So even though you might see on the 15-minute chart that there's a bit of failure here at the figure, it's not in the area where I want to see a failure at a figure. I'd like the figure to be at my 62 level or my 79% level. That then would get me excited to trade down from the figure. Doesn't mean to say this figure can't hold and fail, but to me, it's not as high probability. It'd be more high probability if that figure level lined up with the 62 or the 79% areas, okay? Much like on the pound dollar here, 62 is only 4 pips away from the figure. That's a more high probability area. All right, everybody, thanks very much for coming and joining me for the webinar this evening. I'm doing another live webinar analysis tomorrow and on Thursday, same time. So I'm going to keep the charts as they are so we can see how I'm going relative to how the market's going. I don't expect to be right all the time because the market's always right. I'm not always right. I just like to use high probability tools, and around those tools, hoping the market will operate nicely for me, using good risk to reward, and that's how you can be profitable. All right. Thanks, Lou, for me. Thanks, Nathan. I'm going to call it an evening there. So thanks very much for attending. Hopefully I will see you tomorrow. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great evening. And if you're joining me on YouTube this evening, just before I end the stream, thanks very much for attending. And if you want to join us in the live webinar, so you can ask questions, just hop onto our website and register. I'll just bring that page up for you. There it is. The page is acy.com, education webinars. If you just jump onto that page, then you can register for any of the webinars, the upcoming webinars we've got this week or next week, okay? All right, so thanks everybody for attending. Have a great evening.